said, having spoken thus, Arjuna, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Dhritarashtra must have been very glad to understand that Arjuna was not going to fight and was instead leaving the battlefield for begging profession. But Sanjaya disappointed him again in relating that Arjuna was competent to kill his enemies, Parantapa. Although Arjuna was, for the time being, overwhelmed with false grief due to family affection, he surrendered unto Krishna, the supreme spiritual master, as a disciple. This indicated that he would soon be free from the false lamentation resulting from family affection and would be enlightened with perfect knowledge of self-realization or Krishna consciousness, and would then surely fight. Thus, Dhritarashtra's joy would be frustrated, since Arjuna would be enlightened by Krishna and would fight to the end. Text 10. O descendant of Bharata, at that time, Krishna, smiling in the midst of both armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. O descendant of Bharata, at that, purport by Srila Prabhupada. The talk was going on between intimate friends, namely Hrishikesha and the Gudakesha. As friends, both of them were on the same level, but one of them voluntarily became a student of the other. Krishna was smiling because a friend had chosen to become a disciple. As Lord of all, he is always in a superior position as the master of everyone. And yet, the Lord agrees to be a friend, a son, or a lover for a devotee who wants him in such a role. But when he was accepted as the master, he at once assumed the role and talked with the disciple like the master, with gravity as it is required. It appears that the talk between the master and the disciple was openly exchanged in the presence of both armies, so that all were benefited. So the talks of Bhagavad Gita are not for any particular person, society, or community, but they are for all, and friends or enemies are equally entitled to hear them. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, Krishna is smiling in the midst of both armies. And he spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna. So, you might say, why is he smiling? There are two armies ready to kill each other, and he's smiling in the midst of it. Well, because he's smiling due to Arjuna's, let's say, type of misery, because he is not willing to fight. And therefore, when Krishna smiles, it's because he's trying to bless Arjuna. When you have people who are, let's say, an authority, and they smile at you, that means they're going to be very kind and help you. So, and that's why it says the talk was going on between intimate friends, namely the Hrishikesha, the owner of the senses, and the Gudakesha, Arjuna. As friends, Gudakesha, I think it means the person who is controlling sleep.
Conquered sleep.
Conquered sleep, yeah. As friends, both of them were on the same level, but one of them voluntarily became a student of the other. Well, that's the proper thing. Arjuna became a student of Krishna. Krishna was smiling because a friend had chosen to become a disciple. Ah, see, now we know why he smiled. As Lord of all, he is always in a superior position as the master of everyone. And yet the Lord agrees to be a friend, a son, or a lover for a devotee who wants him in such a role. But when he was accepted as the master, he at once assumed the role and talked with the disciple like the master, with gravity, as it is required. In other words, there is no joking. This is real. This is serious. It appears that the talk between the master and disciple was openly exchanged in the presence of both armies, so that all were benefited. So the talks of Bhagavad Gita are not for any particular person, society, or community, but they are for all. And friends or enemies are equally entitled to hear them. That's a very important statement by Prabhupada. In other words, we don't say, oh, well, this person doesn't deserve to hear knowledge about Krishna. If they're, not offensive, and they're just ignorant, then they should hear. That way they can become little by little a devotee. So in that way, when Krishna spoke to Arjuna, everybody on both sides, the armies on both sides, they heard his discussion with Arjuna, which is very auspicious, very, very auspicious thing. So the talks of Bhagavad Gita are not for any particular person, society, or community, but they are for all. And friends or enemies are equally entitled to hear them. So Krishna is not an Indian. He's not an American. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's for everyone. Yeah. And the knowledge of Krishna is for everyone. It's not just for a certain class of people. Everyone can come and learn who Krishna is and surrender to Krishna and become a devotee. And Prabhupada proved this. He made so many devotees, but he didn't say, oh, well, are you born in India? What is your gotra? What is this? Was it that? No. He accepted anyone who was willing to follow his instructions and become a devotee. So that's the real Krishna consciousness. It's not that, you have to be born in a family of brahmanas in order to be able to hear this knowledge. But what Prabhupada did was, by insisting that his devotees follow the regulative principles, he brought them up to the level of brahmanas, and even better than that, Vaishnavas, so they could hear this transcendental knowledge and become exceptional people. They're exceptional by their ability to spread Krishna consciousness. Okay, so text 11. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Asochan Anvasachastvam Pragna Vadam Sabhasase Gatasuma Gatasumscha Nana Sochanti Pandita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord at once took the position of the teacher and excuse me, and chastised the student, calling him indirectly a fool. The Lord said, you are talking like a learned man, but you do not know that one who is learned, one who knows what is body and what is soul, does not lament for any stage of the body, neither in the living nor in the dead condition. As explained in later chapters, it will be clear that knowledge means to know matter and spirit and the controller of both. Arjuna argued that religious principles should be given more importance than politics or sociology. But he did not know that knowledge of matter, soul, and the supreme are even more important than religious formularies. And because he was lacking in that knowledge, he should not have posed himself as a very learned man. As he did not happen to be a very learned man, he was consequently lamenting for something which was unworthy of lamentation. The body is born and is destined to be vanquished today or tomorrow. Therefore, the body is not as important as the soul. One who knows this is actually learned, and for him, there's no cause for lamentation, regardless of the condition of the material body. Hare Krishna. Okay, so now this is very important purport. And we can learn a lot of things by this situation that Arjuna is in. He's in a tough position. He has to, what he wanted to do was not cause anyone to die. So he wanted to just leave the the battlefield and live like a hermit the rest of his life, you know, and hoping that they wouldn't fight because they were relatives on both sides. But Krishna did not accept that. It might have sounded good. Oh, I don't want to cause anybody's death, blah, blah, blah. But that was not his duty. His duty, he was a Kshatriya, and a Kshatriya has to fight. But for the right reason, not for the wrong reason. The right reason was to defeat Duryodhana, who, although was very expert in many things, but because he was jealous of Arjuna, he developed, bad mentality, and it was corrupting. So therefore, Arjuna and he was going to commit a great crime, or he was always already trying to do that by trying to kill Arjuna. Right. So Arjuna had every right to fight, and eventually, killed Duryodhana. Okay, so and this Bhagavad Gita is openly exchanged in the presence of both armies so that all were benefited. So that's what Krishna consciousness is for the benefit of all people. We do not discriminate on the basis of their person's, birth in a certain family, or a person's wealth or poverty, etc. If a person is willing to listen respectfully to the Bhagavad Gita, then they have every possibility to make spiritual progress, and the devotees will do everything to help such a person. They can be white, they can be black, they can be yellow. It doesn't matter what color they are. Doesn't matter what family they come from. Of course, you have to be careful, because sometimes people like to take advantage of devotees because they're so nice, right? And they want to be a crazy and a lazy person. So those type of people, if they don't straighten out right away, and here it says that Krishna at once assumed a role and talked with the disciple like the master, with gravity, as it is required. In other words, when one wants to become a disciple of a bona fide spiritual master, the spiritual master duty is to chastise the devotee. No, let's not say chastise. It's to point out the bad behavior or the mistakes that a devotee makes and correct them, right? That's the whole point. Why do you have a spiritual master? So if you make mistakes, he can correct you, and therefore we need correction. We all of us make some mistakes sometimes. The spiritual master is not mean. He doesn't purposely make up false accusations or anything like that. But if he sees that there's something that is, let's say, not to the standard, he has every right to correct the disciple. Okay, so he says here that it appears that the talk between the master and the disciple was openly exchanged in the presence of both armies, and so that all were benefited. So the talks of Bhagavad Gita are not for any particular person, society, or community, but they are for all. And friends or enemies are equally entitled to hear it. Whoa, what a all-encompassing statement that is. It's for everybody, friends or enemies. And what is that? Bhagavad Gita talks of Bhagavad Gita for everyone, for friends and for enemies. And they're all equally entitled to hear. Text 11. Bhagavanu Vacha. Sochanam Sochastram Pragnavadam Shabasase. Gatasam Cha Nanu Sochanti Panditam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord at once took the position of the teacher and chastised the student, calling him indirectly a fool. The Lord said, you are talking like a learned man, but you do not know that one who is learned, one who knows what is body and what is soul, does not lament for any stage of the body, neither in the living nor in the dead condition. As explained in later chapters, it will be clear that knowledge means to know matter and spirit and the controller of both. Arjuna argued that the religious principles should be given more importance than politics or sociology. But he did not know that knowledge of matter, soul, and the supreme is even more important than religious formularies. And because he was lacking in that knowledge, he should not have posed himself as a very learned man. As he did not happen to be a very learned man, he was consequently lamenting for something which was unworthy of lamentation. The body is born and is destined to be vanquished today or tomorrow. Therefore, the body is not as important as the soul. One who knows this is actually learned, and for him, there's no cause for lamentation, regardless of the condition of the material body. Well, there are examples of this because when you see someone who's suffering and in a very bad condition, so you try and help them, of course, and chant Hare Krishna, give them prasadam. But ultimately, everyone who's born is destined to die. It's just law of nature. So what's more important in life is to practice Krishna consciousness, which is on the level of the soul. Krishna consciousness is on the level of the soul. We are not so interested in the body. Like, for example, you have people, they spend a lot of money on the body. They'll work out, they'll get saunas, and get all kinds of material, let's say, gadgets for the health of their body and so forth. Now, there's nothing wrong with keeping your body healthy, but people are overindulgent. Not all people, but a lot of people are overindulgent for the, let's say, comfort and uh, pleasures of the body. Right. So that can include a lot of things like uh, overeating, having sex, and so forth, and taking all kinds of supplements to have more sexual, let's say, acumen, and all kinds of things that are unnecessary. So the body life is very simple. We chant, we dance, and we have prasadam, and we talk about Krishna, read about Krishna, and help other people become Krishna conscious. But there's no sense gratification involved. Now, just eating prasadam is a type of sense gratification, but it's on the basis of devotional service. It's not on the basis of lust, anger, greed, and eating more than one should eat, and so forth. Everything has its limit, and even prasadam, one should not be gluttonous. One should eat properly as much as they need, but they shouldn't overeat or undereat. The, the Krishna consciousness is this balance in life. Uh, However, there's no limit to how much you can chant Hare Krishna. There's no limit to how much you can hear about Krishna. Yeah. But eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, there's a lot of restrictions involved. These things should be minimized, and the hearing about Krishna should be maximized. Yeah. Okay, so it says, it will be clear that knowledge means to know matter and spirit and the controller of both. The controller of both matter and spirit is Krishna. Arjuna argued that religious principles should be given more importance than politics or sociology. Well, that sounds good, but he did not know that knowledge of matter, soul, and the supreme is even more important than religious formularies. Yeah, so whatever Krishna wants, that's what we should want. And because he was lacking in that knowledge of what? Knowledge of matter, soul, and supersoul, he should not have posed himself as a very learned man. And he did not happen to be very learned, as he did not happen to be a very learned man, he was consequently lamenting for something which was unworthy of lamentation. The body is born and is destined to be vanquished today or tomorrow. Therefore, the body is not as important as the soul. One who knows this is actually learned, and for him, there's no cause for lamentation, regardless of the condition of the material body. So, a long time ago, I was when we had a little temple. Uh, there were a whole bunch of Punjabi people that were coming to the temple, and then one day, one Punjabi lady died. So they invited me to come and do the last rites. I did it. And during the last rites, this one lady, to show, I guess, she loved the person that died, she started to cry very loudly and basically put on a show, and then she fainted. And then and then one other lady tried to do something also, to show, to outdo the other lady.
In India, it is very common.
It's very common. Yeah. Well, these were Indians, Punjabis. They're good at this. So, I just, I didn't say anything. I wasn't sure whether they were being sincere or they were just making a show. It's most likely it was a show. What's that?
Nowadays in Indian Christians preaching, they use this trick a lot.
They do this trick.
Yes.
They faint. They
Yes.
faint as if they're in so much ecstasy or something. Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
The time.
7:30.
Okay, my dear devotees, we'll continue tomorrow. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask?
Maharaj, but when loved ones are gone, we do feel the pain of separation, right?
Mhm.
Is it okay? I mean, even though we know that.
Well, there's no law that says you're not allowed to cry. Uh, but it shouldn't be, every day for days and weeks and months. There is, a certain period of mourning. But what's more important than the mourning is reading the Shastras and chanting. So chanting is, let's say, all-encompassing way of expressing your love and devotion for Krishna and for other people. So if there's a person that you love very much and they die, then you chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. And pray to Krishna that if he can be very kind for the departed soul. But the chanting is the most important thing. Chanting Hare Krishna is the most important thing because you're in direct connection with Krishna, and Krishna knows what your what's disturbing you or what your purpose is or what you would like to see and so forth. So you don't even have to ask Krishna anything. He already knows what you want, right? So if you want to, pray for the soul of someone, you don't have to specifically say, well, this prayer is for so-and-so. Krishna is in your heart and he knows what you're thinking. So you just chant. The best way to chant is chant without any specific purpose other than to glorify the Lord. Other than to glorify the Lord. So that should be the purpose of our chanting, is to glorify Krishna. And we have so many nice mantras in the Bhagavad Gita that glorify Krishna. Let me go back to where it was a little earlier before. Yeah. So Arjuna says, see, this is what we should recite. If you want to glorify Krishna, you should recite choice poetic verses that glorify the Lord. And it says here, let's see, in the 11th chapter, 18th verse, Twamaksharam paramam veditavyam Tvam asya visvasya param nidanam Twamavyaya saswata dharma gupta sanatanas tvam Purusho Matome. You are the supreme primal objective. You are the ultimate resting place of all this universe. You are inexhaustible. You are the oldest. You are the maintainer of the eternal religion, the personality of Godhead. This is my opinion, the statement of Arjuna. So there, in the 11th chapter, starting from the 18th verse and onward, there are these wonderful verses glorifying Krishna. This is the way to prayer, to pray. You don't pray like the Christians, they'll say, okay, now hold hands, and now the pastor will pray, and then he'll make up something, you know. But this is the way to pray. You use bona fide shastric glorifications of the Lord. You are without an origin, middle, or end. Your glory is unlimited. You are numberless. You have numberless arms, and the sun and moon are your eyes. I see you with blazing fire coming forth from your mouth, burning this entire universe by your own radiance. So these are verses in the 11th chapter that are glorifying Krishna. This is what we should recite. Okay. We shouldn't make up prayers. We should recite bona fide prayers of the acharyas. And who's more of an acharya than Arjuna himself? Haribol.
Any questions or comments on that?
Everybody go to Texas.
We have a country.
Oh, wow. Good.
Sunil Prabhu or Naresh Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, any takeaways? Hare Krishna, you there?
Yes, Prabhu. Nothing much, Prabhu, today.
Okay.
If you have nothing to say, then just say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. When in doubt, chant Hare Krishna.
Okay, bro.
Haribol. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jai.
Someone
Okay.
else wants to say something? Go ahead, Saji. I think Jessica Mataji.
Oh, I just said Hare Krishna.
Okay. Haribo. Thank you. Hare.
Hare Krishna.
That's the best thing to say. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Haribol.
See you again in the morning.